Hi, everyone. So this is the Cuddle office hours. This is the Q&A session. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Federico, and this is a kind of informal live stream to answer some questions related to Cuddle. You can leave me some questions in the comments. I'll be watching those. And I'm going to try answer some questions that were left on the post that when I posted this. So, hi Cindy, hi Carla, thanks for coming. So I'm gonna let. Oh, hi. Anita and Al are here, so cool. Thanks for coming. I'm gonna give a couple of minutes to see if more people are joining in. There are gonna be a couple of people also from Cuddle in the comments, so they might answer some questions as they come up. There's Toby. Cool. So I think I'm gonna get started. So this is gonna be just half an hour. So I think I have a number of things to cover. So I'm gonna start with this. So there was one question in the comments about how to get to the projects, because a lot of people have been interacting with just the templates. So here in front of me, I have the sort of homepage for Cuddle. And so here you're kind of used to seeing, the templates, and you can click here on any template and start using it. Here's the keychain. But if I go back to the main homepage, you will also see a link on the top left corner called My Projects. And so if I click on that one, you'll see a list of my recent projects and the projects, the project folders here on the left-hand side. And this is just an organization that you can create. I feel like this is a little private view of my of my stuff. So anyway, to start a new project, you can hit the plus sign here, and it will create a new blank project, and it will give you as a view of the editor immediately. So this is one way to start a project. Another way you could start a project is to start with an existing template. But I'm going to focus on the editor here. But if you really want to see me start a project from an existing template, we can do that. There was a question if this program is subscription-based. The answer is yes. You can have a free account with a number of projects that you can work, but that's kind of restricted a little bit. So yeah, it's browser-based, and you can pay for a subscription. There's also a free tier, of course. So I'm going to get started with a simple project that somebody requested. So the question was how to make a project where there is a circle, excuse me, where there is a circle and a name in the middle. And so, and I'm going to tag to that the idea that someone asked also how to create a backer for that project. So let's start by sketching things out. So I'm going to start with dragging a circle from the left-hand side. I'm going to place it right there. And right from the beginning, I'm going to try and choose the size of this circle. So let's say something, let's call it like 3 by 3. So I'm going to scale that circle. I'm going to give it 3 inches here. And then I want to have a name in the middle. So I'm going to use the connected text because that's the kind of nicer way of creating text that stays connected when you cut it. So I can go to the left here and search for connected text. I'm going to drag it here on the center. And you'll notice that I will often drag things and place them right in the center. So you can see that the canvas has these center lines or the axis. And the center of the canvas is a really nice kind of reference point. So I can, when I dragged my connected text, I placed it here. And you can see that I can drag it sort of point to point. So if I go from the origin here and I click on it and I drag it to the center, I can make sure that is centered. And another way I've seen some people do it is that if you say drag something and place it on the canvas, and then you can see that there is a position number here. So I can do it with the mouse, or I can do it by typing 0, 0 here. So if I type 0 and 0, I'm pretty sure that is centered now. But because it's text, this text is aligned or it's aligned at this moment to the left. So I want it to be centered. So I'm going to select the text, and I'm going to select the align, and I'm going to call it center. So that centers my text. And that's the horizontal alignment. And then the vertical alignment would be also in the middle. So I think that's a good start. And so as usual, I want to have, well, not as usual, but I guess you're getting started with these. But so the idea is that we'll have a name that fits right here. So one simple way to do it is to be, I'm going to type my name. And so because I want to make these into a template, I can start by sort of extracting these as a parameter, as we discussed last time. So if I go to the 3 dots here on the right, there is an option that says extract as parameter. And so that immediately creates the text that I can type. I can even change the name of that parameter. So again, a parameter is something that kind of controls an aspect of an element here. So I'm going to double click here. I'm going to call it the name. So now whenever I want to change anything, I can simply type it here. So I'm going to say like Toby. And so now I want that circle to be touching the text. So I'm going to select the circle, and I'm going to use this version, this modifier called outline stroke. And I'm going to outline it a little bit. Like that. So now you can see sort of where I'm going with this. So I'm creating a sort of ornament with a name in the middle, and I want the name to be joined to, I want the name to be joined to that circle. So one thing that we've been using a lot for this kind of thing is this modifier called, I'm going to select both the circle and the name, and I'm going to apply this modifier called, it's kind of really neat. It's called weld and score. So this modifier does a couple of really fun things. So it will weld, meaning it will join the 2 parts. So if I select it like this, I get the 2 parts joined together, but where the name is overlapping with the circle, it will change the color. So I can actually score that section. So this would be like a super basic template. I have just a name, and I have the weld and score, and I have the circle around it. So to show you that it kind of works as a template, I'm going to go back to the README view. And then here is the place where I can write my notes, or I can put a component. So I'm going to place that component here. I only have one. And so you can see now how this kind of operates as a template. It's the most basic template I can think of right now. So I have the name, which is the only parameter I created. And here I can change it. I'll write my name again. And as you can see, it immediately applies all those operations that we did. It would weld it, and it will score it right away. So I think one nice thing that I could add to this particular template, well, I could start by giving it a name. I'll call it the ornament. But for example, a simple thing I could add is that sometimes maybe I want to change the size of that circle. So that's something I can do right away. So I'm going to go back to the editor view. So I'm going to click here on the component. And here's an opportunity to show you something, which is this inspector view right here on the top right. So if I can see each one of the elements that I use to compose this template. So I can see that I can click on the circle, and that gives me all the options that the circle has. I can click on the text that I wrote, and I can see all those other options. And when I applied the modifier, the one called well done score, the Cuttle then immediately grouped those two things together. So that's why I can see it here as a group. And then the group has that modifier applied to it. And each one of those things are kind of like quick ways with icons to sort of navigate what's happening. So I can click on the well done score, and I can change the score color, for example. That just changes the color of the outline. I can also disable that, because sometimes you want to disable the modifiers just to troubleshoot things. If I disable it, you'll see that now I get those the inside lines. I'm going to enable it again by clicking here. And I, of course, can see if I can see the stroke, I can see the position, I can see other things. But the thing I wanted to do was change the size of the circle. So if I go to the circle, you'll see that the options I have here, there is one called scale. So once again, I can create another parameter, and I can use those three dots here to extract it. So I'm going to extract this parameter. And so that immediately kind of connects those two elements. So here it gives me the option to scale the circle. There's a question. Yeah, so shorter names float in the center. How do we fix that? I'm going to cover that here in a moment. And when you change the size of the circle, will it change the size of the name? Not right now. So the way I set this one up, let's go back to the README view. I have the name here, and I have the scale of the circle. So right now, the way it's set up, if I change the name, only changes the text for the name and then the scale of the circle. But this is really not the most convenient way to do it. I think this one could work just to kind of do something quick. But yes, let's try and make it so it's kind of so the size of the name adapts to the size of the circle. So let's do that. So now that we know how to do it, I'm gonna maybe do it a little bit faster. So I'm gonna go back here to the editor view. I'm gonna create a new component. By clicking this plus sign, and within the same project, I can do multiple things. So let's try and do that. That was suggested. So I'm gonna start again with a circle. Let's go ahead and use the scale of that circle again as a parameter, because sometimes you want to change that. So we call that 3 inches for the previous one. Then I applied that modifier called outline stroke. And here I kind of selected the width of the outline itself. I think about 1/2 inch is like an interesting. So that's my starting point. And then now I'm actually going to use a different component. Instead of just the connected text, I'm going to use this one called fit text. So I'm going to drag this fit text in here. Actually, I'm not entirely sure this is the ideal way to do it, because I still want the connected text. So let me think about this for a moment. Yeah, maybe actually let's do connected text, but then use this fit within. So I'm going to use the connected text again. I'm going to search it, place it where I want it. Once again, I want the alignment to be center, and then middle. And then I'm going to create a rectangle that is kind of like where I want to fit that text. So I'm going to place that rectangle in the center, and I'm going to scale it to be the size of the circle. So right now that's the size, and I want the text to fit within that. So I'm going to select that, select the text and that rectangle that I created, and I'm going to use this modifier called fit within. And if I'm using this correctly, Oh, I think Toby has a better suggestion. So instead of using the rectangle, I could just use the circle itself. So let me start over again. So I'm going to delete everything here, or almost everything. And then just grab the connected text again. Place it in the middle. Center it. Middle. And then I'm going to apply the fit within to both of those. So fit within. Cool. Yeah, I think this one's cool. So now whatever I type, when I type on the connected text, let's see, it's going to size it up to fit in there. Yeah, I think this is a I think this is a neat way to do it. So once again, to turn it into a template, I'm gonna go to connected text. I'm gonna extract that as a parameter. So that'll be my name. I'm gonna change the name of that so it's more readable. I'm gonna call it name. I can reorganize these parameters as well. I'm gonna rename this one to call it the circle scale. And then the last thing I want to do is I also want to connect these two things. So I'm going to apply the sort of well done score modifier again, which is down here. So notice here that I'm applying two modifiers. I'm applying the fit within and the well done score. And then I'm going to go back to the README, and you know, I have two components, so I'm going to call this one the first version. And I'm going to call this one the fit within version. Just so we can have a sort of difference between them. And then one suggestion that Toby's making is that I can increase the scale on the fit within. So this is cool because so to do that, I'm gonna select fit within, and then there's a scale option here. So I'm gonna increase the scale so it's a little bigger in relationship to the object that it is fitting within. So I'm gonna say something like that. Yeah, I think that looks cool. So going back to the README, I'm gonna add that component. So component, I'm gonna add the fit within version. And so here we have it working as a template. So let me see. I'm actually gonna delete this one, our first example. And let's check it. Let's see how this is working. So if I write something like Toby, nice. So that's like fitting any name now within the circle boundaries. And let's try Ryan. Cool. I think this kind of answers the first question, which is how do we how do we create this ornament? And it has a text that fits within with a couple of kind of nice tricks. And then we can even change the scale of the circle. This is a little much. So let's call it 300. I'm going to say inches. So now we can kind of change that really nicely. Yeah, thanks for the suggestion, Toby. So I think the next part that we wanted to figure out here is how to make it so it has a backer. I think a couple of people asked this question. So let's see how we can figure this one out. So I'm gonna go back here. So I think with this one, what we want the backer to be, the way it's currently designed, actually, let me see. I have the name right inside. So yeah, so the name right now is not going past the circle. So if I want the simplest backer would be simply to cut the circle that is right in the back. So I can do that also by extracting the original circle. I can extract it as a component. So that kind of separates things. So let's go to the circle. I'm gonna do right click, and then I'm gonna extract as component. So that sort of created a separate part here that then gets joined with the name. And when I make any modifications to this part, then it also modifies it onto the original one. But then I can also use it for other, I can modify it in different ways to sort of reuse it. And so the cool thing about that is that it also has this parameter connected to it. So let me show you what I mean by all of these. Is like, so I can create another component, drag that one that has the name, and drag my original component, which is, I'm going to name it because, so I don't get confused. And then I'm going to drag the outside circle. And so I actually don't want this outside circle. Oh, so what I wanted to show is that, yeah, I don't want this outside circle to have that inside cut, because I just want it to be fully backed. So what I can do in this case is possibly to just remove the inside hole. So to this one, I'm going to apply this modifier of remove holes. So now I have the front and the back. And in order to cut them at the same time, I can also put those into another component, which is the both right here. So now what happens is that every time, let me see if this is working as intended. Not quite. So what I really want to do is that the scale modifies both the circle with the name and the outside circle. So let me make a couple of changes to do that. So I'm going to go back to the editor. And so I actually want this scale to be, without getting super complicated, I'm going to call this a global parameter. So it's a parameter that applies to the entire project. So I'm going to call this one circle scale by creating a new parameter. And so that's going to apply here. Actually, I might just delete this parameter. No, sorry. I'm going to do it the complicated way. So I'm going to make this one circle scale. And then I'm going to make this one also circle scale, which is, and I think now if I change that, then it should apply to both, yes. Yeah, I think I could have started, I could have started this a little bit better with like, project parameters, but, it's a live stream. You'll forgive me. So now we have the circle scale here. So that changes both the backer and the inside one. And I actually also want the name itself to be like a project-wide parameter. So I'm going to create it again. So I'm going to call it the text or the name. Reorder it. And I'm going to go back to that component. And I actually want this one to be text. So I'm going to change these to text. And I want, whenever I'm connected these things, I actually need to click on the 3 dots. And then I want to edit the expression. So I want that to be the name. Yeah, so that it's working because I can type a name here. Cool. All right, so now going back to the README, I think this is now working as intended. So I'm going to delete this one. All right, so this is an instance of that. Let's call. Okay. So now let's see if I got to the place where I wanted. So I can type any name. And then if I change the scale of the circle, then it modifies both. All right, so hopefully you saw me stumble through this process and make a couple of mistakes. But that also kind of gives you an idea of, how you can like move things around and kind of adapt. I think at the end of this project, I would, I created several versions as different components, but I think possibly at the end, I might want to clean it up if I want to present it a little bit better. So the thing I'm going to do is I can actually get rid of my first version. I can click the three dots here and delete that. Then I have the fit within, and then I have the circle. This is the outside circle. And then I have the, I often call these the cut component, because it's the one that I would use for, cutting operations. And then if you want to clean it a bit further, you can always, you can kind of clean up your parameters. And then I want this to be a sort of number. So I'm going to add the inches here. And I want to change the parameter type to number. And then, of course, you can do other little things. Like, for example, if I want this stroke to be red, I'm going to change the stroke to red. So that would be like an outside cut. I think if I change this one, it might not work. Yeah, that could work. So then I have my code component. I'm going to go back to my README. And cool. Right, so we have 3 minutes left in the live stream. And hopefully this was somewhat instructive. And I managed to answer a couple of questions on how to create this ornament. I think to present it again as a nice template, I could add some comments. I can add a description, something like these, an ornament with a name inside. I could always add little comments to the parameters. So for example, I could add comments, something like, write any name here. And then finally, if you leave it as is for your own use, it's just going to appear like this inside your own projects. So when you go to home, you can see, if I go to my projects here, you'll see that that's the ornament I created. But if you wanted to share it with someone else, you would always go to share. And then there's an option here that says unlisted or public. In general, if they're not super finished and they're for sort of informal sharing, we'll do it unlisted. And that will create a link that you can copy and then paste it in an email or the chat, the way I'm going to do right now. I'm going to place it in the chat. And so then you can access that project and kind of make more modifications and whatnot. Cool. So that was half an hour. Thanks for coming. Thanks for seeing me stumble through this project. Hopefully it was instructive and we both learned some things. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot. Oh yeah, someone asked if we'll record. We'll save and record these and they will be posted on the timeline. All right, cool. Appreciate everyone. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And all right, I'm going to end it. I hope you have a nice day. Bye.